Welcome to Lead Today with me, Kalyna. Let's talk leadership. Hey, and welcome to the show. Today, I'm really excited to chat about another topic that comes up with coaching that I never really anticipated I would get. I brand myself as a career coach, and yet I get a lot of relational questions and specifically romantic relationships and partnerships. And I find that to be so interesting, but also I'm really drawn to it because, well, I love all sorts of relationships, and careers are a lot about navigating professional relationships. And one of my most meaningful coaching contracts was supporting veterans and first responders with PTSD, and usually them and their partners. So it'd be couples coaching and then some one-on-one work as well. So, I mean, it's a space that I really am passionate about. And I always thought for some reason there was this line in between the two that I couldn't cross. And yet, here we are. I've coached hundreds of hours, if not more, specifically in the relationship realm. And I really love it. So this one is a very specific challenge that I see show up. And so I'd like to look at it from a coaching perspective and a couple of different things that I've seen work well, regardless of the outcome. I know we get really focused on outcomes with dating, and I will preface it by saying that mostly I work with women on the idea of, hey, I'm 30 or 40 and still not married. I want to be married. I want a partner. I want to be dating. I'm not really dating. It's often women. I've had a few men show up in this capacity as well, which is kind of heartening to see that men are also wanting marriage and partnership. And I think it's against the kind of general narrative that we're seeing that, party, hookup culture, singles, that somehow women are the only ones that want this kind of family, children, picket fence thing. And I just think that that's misguided. I've definitely seen some men show up to coaching sessions saying, look, I really want a family and kids, and I want someone that will go on that journey with me. And so I really love seeing that in sessions. Actually, it makes me really optimistic about where people are headed and the motivations or what's driving them in life. It's really nice to see that people are aiming at family and meaningful partnerships and marriage. I think it's really, really inspiring to me to see that that's still the case. So, okay, either you were in a relationship and it ended, or you've kind of been serially dating, it's not really working, and well, that's frustrating and not what you want. And again, I've seen it a lot. I think the very first thing to address, and I'll say this with every single coaching topic because the foundation is the same, and I know that partially kind of sucks because you can't put the blame on your partner, on dating, on society, on where you live. And I've done it myself. I get it, I just live in a city where all the guys are this way, or all the women are that way, or people are not getting married here, or it's not, like kind of broad generalizations that don't really help you at all and just comfort you, but really, again, don't change the situation. So let's not focus on the level of society or generalize a certain group. Let's get into the thick of your personal situation. And that means, spoiler alert, I know, but you have to take responsibility for your dating life. Yes, you have to take ownership over what has been happening so far. We can look at this at a bunch of levels. We can start at the level of environment, or we can start at the level of vision. Doesn't really matter. Some people are very visionary. This is what I want out of a relationship. Other people aren't. So it's just a processing model of how people think about things. So whatever. Let's start at the bottom. Environment. where are you hanging out? Who are you hanging out with? Are you hanging out with a bunch of singles? Are you hanging out with only married people? Are you hanging out with your family? Are you hanging out with friends that are dating someone already? You are the company you keep, and you have to be mindful of who you hang out around. Now, I'm not saying throw out all the relationships you have and just toss it out. Keep them, but branch out to people that have a similar goal to you. If you're only hanging out with 40-year-olds that are complaining about how miserable men are, it's a lot harder to find a man that wants to be a partner and wants to hang out with you and your friends that are just complaining about men all day. I know, harsh, but true. So who are you hanging out with? Big, important criteria is who, then where, right? So, and I did the bar thing, the club thing, and I met some decent people, but none of them ended up being my husband. And it's not to say that you can't meet someone in that environment. It's just a question of, well, what kind of person do you want to meet? Is it a person that goes to those types of places? And for me, the answer was no. Maybe for you, the answer is yes. But be very discerning and clear about, are you hanging out in places with people that align with the type of life that you want? So the moment I got kind of clearer on that and cleaned up my act, principally, I stopped drinking. Very rapidly, I met somebody that also didn't drink. And, it happened to be that we got married. But it doesn't have to be the case that the first person you meet that's like you marry. But certainly if you clean up your act, it makes it a lot easier to meet somebody that you'd want to be with. And so the next step is actions and behaviors, and that kind of lines into that. So you're hanging out in an environment that's aligned with what it is that you want more often than not, and doing hobbies that you're interested in and going places that you're interested in spending time, and you would hope that that person would be there too, or like similar things, or at least one of those things, right? Maybe not all of them, but if you're somebody that wants a religious, faith-based person, maybe not religious, but spiritual person, and you're not hanging out in a spiritual kind of community that aligns with your beliefs, then less likely that you'll meet a person that is spiritually driven. Still possible, but you kind of want to stack the deck in your favor. And so I see people a lot where it's like, yeah, I really want this kind of person, but they're not really living that way themselves. So your actions and behaviors need to line up with that grand vision that you have for this ideal partner that you want. And ideal comes with a big asterisk because, well, ideal in what way? Like ideal, they're going to help you learn and grow, or ideal, like they're perfect somehow and, well, you're not. So no one is going to meet all of these criteria that you set out. I think they need to align on a values level. And so after actions and behaviors is skills and capabilities, and that might be, before I kind of jump to values, skills and capabilities might be, communication skills and being willing to work things out. And I'm the first one to know that this is a big feat, and it's certainly something I will probably continue to work on for the rest of my life. But it has to be something that you're consciously cultivating, right? So what kind of skills do you want to cultivate in your relationships overall? If you can start building those before you're in that long-term relationship, right? So I've had people come in and say, I want somebody that's positive and puts me in a great mood and is really uplifting and, makes me feel great. And it's like, okay, but if you're this rain cloud of a person, and there's a time and a place for every type of emotion, but if you're consistently dragging people down and negative, and you call that realism, but really you're just a stick in the mud and not very fun, then what makes you think that somebody that's happy-go-lucky or charming and vivacious, very high energy or positive, is going to want to be around that? I mean, unless they see you as a project, but then they'll get bored of that. So you don't want to be someone's project, and you probably won't attract somebody that you want if you're not at that same or similar point. Again, unless you're going to be a project and rescued, and there are relationships like that, and that can work for people. So if that's what you're looking for, then find your knight in shining armor. But generally speaking, unless you want to be saved and then have that power dynamic at play, you're going to want to kind of embody what you want in a partner. And so that's where I said, I stopped drinking and then I met my now husband. Well, yeah, because we were the two people at a wedding that were sober. And so we found each other and sort of like a beacon. And I say it about drinking, and that's a very clear kind of environmental example where everybody was sort of drinking and in a party mood, and we were sort of not in that same, we weren't, the signal emanating from us wasn't one of let's get drunk and party. And again, this doesn't mean you have to stop drinking to find somebody. It means you are giving off a signal as to who you are and what you stand for and what it is how it is you approach relationships and what it is you want. You're giving off this signal all the time with everybody you interact with. And so calibrate that signal that you're giving off rather than focusing on who that other person is. Focus on you. Focus on the signal that you're giving off being as authentic to you as it can be, so that the person you draw in is as authentic as they can be. And then hopefully together, you show up and say, okay, we're both willing to work on this. And it's probably not going to be the hormonal rush and fairy tale that it seems like in the first few months, but we're willing to stick it out. And that's where I'd probably get to the next phase, which is values and beliefs. And so if you want marriage, if you are clear you want children, if you know that you want a certain lifestyle, you want to live in the city or out of the city or see your parents every week or live far away from your parents, are you willing to relocate? What are these things that you kind of have in your mind as to the life that you want to live and that are non-negotiable? Just had a coaching session recently where it's, I was in a relationship for 1.5 years. It ended because we just don't want the same things. I get that happens. I think we, again, bury our heads in the sand about stuff like this and don't want to see the truth because we genuinely love the other person. And you can love someone, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the person that you marry. And not all relationships are meant to be lifelong. They're just not. And that's okay. And grieving a relationship might be part of the process if you're kind of getting out of one and thinking, how do I start dating again? No matter where you're at in your journey, right? I get it. I mean, it's hard when you're heartbroken, and that might not be the time to go out and venture and meet someone new. But if you are in the process of, okay, I really thought I'd be at this point by now, I think that's an expectation mismatch maybe, and the focus needs to come back to what's in your control, which is, again, you and who you're being and how you're living out those values for yourself. And most people haven't consciously identified them. They've maybe identified what they want the other person to be, but oftentimes they're not being that person themselves. So the best advice that I can give you from the sessions that I've had so far and seeing this at work in my own marriage is you have to hold yourself to the standard that you want to hold this other person to. Because that's what you're really craving. You want to be uplifting or joyful or solution focused or good with money or whatever it is that you value in other people. I always valued, even from the moment I met my husband, what I valued was his ability to be disciplined and to be structured. And it's very opposite to the kind of flowing, open type of person I am. Like I always resisted routine and structure. And so I've admired about him since we met how diligent he is and how disciplined. And yes, he brings that to the table. And I didn't become that fully before I knew him. And certainly you don't have to be perfect, to attract somebody and to find a great partner that you can live with. But I think I had cleaned up my act in that regard enough and more than I had in previous years for us to be able to be on similar footing, even though he's better at that than I am. And that's the idea. It's not that you have to be every single quality or be like them, but if there are qualities that you want in someone else, it's far more fulfilling to aim in that direction for yourself, because really what you're craving for is for you to be that way when you want that in someone else. So use that value list and that belief list to really start living out those values and beliefs for you and see what changes. And part of that is, I'd like to be open to meeting someone, I want them to be open and funny. It's like, okay, so what would it take for you to be open and funny or lighthearted or caring or nurturing or nice or whatever these characteristics you identify. So identify them and then think about what would it be like for me to embody these things, because that's where you're really going to get the bang for your buck here. And then from that goes to identity, and identity is kind of what I'm saying now, which is you take those values and beliefs and you say, okay, who am I, right? And what would a person that is kind, caring, again, nurturing, whatever words, honest, loving, thoughtful, if you know your love languages, which everybody references, the 5 love languages, it's like, okay, gifts, buy yourself some gifts, spend quality time with yourself, physical touch, get in touch with your body. These are things that you can do for you. And I know that this is kind of I don't know if it's a cliche answer, but I mean, it's the truth. The truth of the matter is the people that I see coming to sessions saying, I want this partner, are oftentimes not looking at themselves. And through the work that we do, the people that I've seen that have the best results are the ones that really take full on responsibility. I met with a client like this today who says, you know what, I'm just opening up to everything in my life and it feels magical and I'm creating the story and I can create whatever story I want. And so why not live this out fully and go and do the dance class and go to yoga and go on the vacation I want to go on and go to speed dating in person around me in the community around me and go to beach volleyball and tennis and just whatever, all the things that you're wanting to do or you think you're going to do when you have this partner, go do them. Go live your life. And then when you do meet that person or some people or as you date, I think it's very important to have those values really crystal clear in front of you so that you don't walk down the path for a year and a half or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 with somebody that's really not aligned with you. And these are things like aligned about money, aligned about sex, aligned about lifestyle, religious beliefs, family, those kinds of things. If they're not aligned with those things, yes, you can make it work, but there's going to be friction. And so if all of those things are out of alignment, way less likely. If a few of them are aligned, the big core ones, and then of course you're going to have differences and disagreements, then fine, right? Great. You can work on those, but the core things need to be aligned. Like, okay, I believe in marriage. I want children. I don't believe in divorce. I stick things through to the very end. And sure, somebody could say that to you, but they need to prove it to you over time. And so have those discussions early on. It's not weird or uncool or awkward. I don't care if you're 30 or 40 or 80, 20, doesn't matter. The right person does not shy away from those discussions. So if they're not willing to have those discussions with you, they are not the right person, right? Because you're clear on what you want. And I've had this conversation with people. I'm going to scare them away. The only people that were scared away by me saying what I wanted were people that were not right for me in the first place. They did not want what I wanted, which is fine. And they're still great people, but they didn't want what I wanted with me at that time. Time and place matters. Being on the same page, there's this timing component that we can't control, but that we need to be mindful of. So, and that's where I think it goes up from identity to vision, mission, which is what is that bigger vision for your life? How does this partner add into the vision, factor in, and really holding your vision steadfast for yourself as you go out and meet these people. If you're complaining and blaming the dating world, the online dating world, the city you're in, stop and realign to your vision and make sure that all the steps of this pyramid that I've just laid out, environment, actions and behaviors, skills and capabilities, values and beliefs, identity, and vision and mission, make sure they're all in alignment. And then the people that you meet, well, you can put them up against that. Do they fit in with my life, with my vision and again, they won't be perfect. It won't be perfect at all. I can it might feel perfect in the first few months, but you'll have your ducks in order. You'll have your ducks in a line in a row, and you'll know that the people you're calling in are valuing the same things as you. They might not look like you. They might not be doing it the same way as you, right? I see a lot of professional women that they've got their career in order and they want this, this, and this, and they have all sorts of criteria. The person might not end up looking the way that you thought they would, or have the resume you thought they would. But I think it's about them. They'll show up in your environment because you have to meet them at some point somewhere, whether it's online or in person. They'll show you through their actions that they're on the same page as you, and discussions like, what do you want out of life and what do you want out of a partner are not going to scare them away. So they're showing up with their actions and behaviors. The skills, the communication will be there. They will be consistent. If they're pulling away, if they're playing games, that's not right. I know it's hard to let that go and not play that game, but that's not right or what you want. And then from that, you go into, okay, what are their values and beliefs? What are they showing me? Right? What is it that they're showing me is important? Not telling me is important. I mean, have those verbal discussions, but what are they showing me is important? Because they'll show you through their actions what it is that their skills are, what it is that their values and beliefs are. Are they hanging out with their parents, calling their mom or not? Do they care about that or not? What they're saying they care about certain things, are they showing it to you through their actions? Then identity, how do they talk about themselves? What kind of person are they in reality? So again, check in on identity they present versus how they actually are. And if how they actually are in day-to-day life lines up with you. And then vision and mission. What's their vision for their life? What are they living out, right? They might not have crystallized their full vision for their life, especially if you're 20, 30, 40. I mean, even 50, 60, you might still have vision of and mission for where you're headed next that isn't crystallized. That's okay. But put it up against what they're saying and what they're doing and say, are they doing things in their real life that line up to this mission and vision? Are they somebody of integrity that follows through or not? And again, not everybody follows through on every dream that they have, but if they're telling you they're working towards something, are they? So, hold up a light to yourself and make sure you're following through on your pyramid, and then check in on how they're following through on their. It's a logical levels pyramid. That's the pyramid I'm going off of here. Check in on how they are, and so if you want someone open and fun, engaging, doing new things, go and do new things. Go and get, go try out different activities in your neighborhood and see who you meet. I guarantee you'll meet somebody there that's of interest. And if they're not the person, maybe a friend of a friend is. I mean, you never know where you meet this person. And that's what's so exciting about this story for your life that you're building. It's an adventure and a story for your life. And I can't guarantee that you'll meet the person in 2 weeks on Tuesday. But I think if you're living this out, you'll align with some people and you'll make some friends in certain friend groups, and you'll meet through a friend of a friend, or even online if you're screening the people in this way where you're really clear on your logical levels and the life you're building, and then you see people of that same clarity. It's a very different dating experience. So I think cleaning up your own act is the first step when it comes to all of those levels of a relationship, so that, well, then you can ask that of someone else, because that's what you're bringing to the table, from a clarity perspective. Again, don't have to be the same person, but need to be clear on what you're driving toward in life if you want to have a marriage and have a joint aim toward building a certain life or family. So I hope this has been useful and clarifying. People that I've worked with have found it useful to kind of go through and really take a look at themselves first, and then head into the dating scene with a different perspective. And then knowing that it is a numbers game, not a numbers game in terms of you have to date everybody, but you have to meet people in your life. And not everybody, again, will be a fit at the exact time. And people can, relationships can serve a certain time and place, and that's fantastic. But not everybody will be for you in the vision way the way you've envisioned. And so you can meet people that you love. And I've loved people at different times in my life, and they've been absolutely formative to who I am today. And I will always have a spot for them in my heart as to how they shaped me. But not everyone is for, let's say, a lifelong relationship, and maybe not at that point in their life. And there are factors to factor into play, right? Like if you date someone when you're 16 and it doesn't work out, and you never know. I mean, I've heard stories of people getting back together after divorce at 40, and then they both have kids, but they find each other again. I mean, again, I'm not here to play fortune teller, but the more clear you can be and the more you can put yourself in aligned environments and be the person you want to draw in, the closer you are to meeting that person and recognizing them when you do meet them, based on the fact that you're putting yourself in the correct environments and scenarios to meet that person. So all you can do is control your part, focus on that, and then put yourself out there with that open heart, ready to just be curious about who the person is on the other end of the table. So thanks so much for listening. If you know somebody that could benefit from this, please do share this episode with them. It helps the show to reach more people and help them, hopefully, to think about their situation in a new way. Like, review, subscribe, comment. Any way that you interact with this content really makes a difference. Again, it's all about individual actions, right? So please do take any action that you are willing to take to support the show. It does make a difference every single time that you interact with this show, and allows me to keep recording it. So thanks again for listening. I hope to see you again next time, and take good care until then.